Shalom, shalom, hayawam tawab la'atam, which is good day unto you all. Anakna Wahai Bar Shaleh with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nacham Adam Kayah Malakwat Hashemayim Kwara, repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rocha Kodash. A double honor to those and apostles of great millstone that torches truth and rule well. And much respect to you bros out there pushing the truth with all righteousness and sincere shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
So essentially, just as it's titled, it says Ouidah Benin slave route. And I'm gonna get a quick precept real fast. This is Isaiah Yeshaya chapter 22. We'll get verse 18, and it says, "He will surely." I'm gonna start from verse 17. It says, "Behold, the Lord will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house." You see, so essentially going into the verse 18. Well, start from verse 17. It says the mighty captivity. The mighty captivity. Was in America, Babylon the Great. Because the scripture said that we all will be in captivity. Over here. In America. Pursuant to Jeremiah, Yaramiah chapter 50 and verse 33, and it says, "He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country." Again, that large country is America, Babylon the Great. And it says, "There shalt thou die." And even over here and into the Americas. Essentially, you had Jake dying on the ships. You see, and then upon arrival and before arrival, you had those. What I'm saying? Over on the western coast of Africa, some Jake didn't make it off the slave ports. So essentially, being tossed and turned, and essentially pursuant to that prophecy, again, Jake, chiefly Judah, came over here on the cargo slave ships.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can we start with that. If you have nothing,
I got one real quick. This is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68. It says, "And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. There thou shalt be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you."
Mm-hmm.
So, like the brother was saying, that Egypt, that place where where Jake would have spent that captivity, that second Egypt is America, right? And when it says no man shall buy you, it's pretty much going into no man shall redeem us. Because as we've seen, nothing was able to deliver us out of the captivity that we're still in, right? And like you mentioned, how violently we were taken over here, right? I mean, all you gotta do is just really look up what's that movie, Amistad. Look up what's the other movie? I
Goodbye,
think it's
Tom.
Goodbye. Yep, Goodbye Uncle Tom. That intro, yeah, it just shows you, the gruesome nature that pretty much Jake was handled coming into America. It was a very rough and tumultuous, like you mentioned, we were pretty much tossed together, tossed. Forgot how it actually goes.
Kind of, essentially, the article gonna touch on it, because even in that,
Okay.
the conditions and stuff like that Jake essentially had to experience, was very like you said, essentially it was bad. Jake was essentially packed like sardines.
Yeah. Con.
So yeah, we can start with that with the article.
Con.
Well, I'm gonna get it, and then you can get the Wikipedia one. I'll read the other one, but it
All
says
right.
walking the slave route in Ouidah Benin, in which when you look at Ouidah, it's just a corruption of the word for Judah or Yahawada, which is Yahweh thanks. All right, I'm gonna get that real fast. This is Baraashi out of Genesis chapter 49. All right, and we'll get verse 7. And it says verse 8, it says, "And Yahweh thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise." So again it goes into Yahweh thanks. All right, and then it also goes into it says he whom thy brethren, Yah, the Hawadah part goes into the praise, because essentially, the Lord Yahweh Shai, he's the ultimate Judite, and essentially he's going to be praised. And again, Judah is that, the head tribe. But it says, verse 8, Yahweh, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Essentially going into, again, we're going into Ouidah Benin, which Jake was essentially scattered all over Africa, but predominantly, or a decent portion of Jake, was in Western Africa.
Con.
But it says Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The Lord essentially is going to rouse up Judah. All right, and it says, verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. All right, because again, Yahweh Shai, he's the ultimate Judite, and that's the head tribe. And it says the scepter, which goes into rulership, it says, shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh, which is another name for Yahweh Shai. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. I'm going to get one more. All right, this is Yeshaya, Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 16, and it says, seek it out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. So again, going into Genesis, or chapter 49 and verse 10, it says, in the latter it says, until Shiloh come, and unto him, or that him being Yahweh Shai, shall the gathering of the people be. So essentially, we're going into again Judah, because again Ouidah is a corruption of Judah. It's like broken Hebrew. Ouidah really is French, but the da part at the end, that goes back to Hebrew. So it's a combination of the two, but it's like a stamp, that essentially shows us in history, or who it's talking about. We understand that it's talking about Judah.
Con.
Yeah, could we get that for Ouidah in Wikipedia?
Con. This is Ouidah in the Wikipedia. It says Ouidah or Ouidah.
Yep, because it's a Ouidah. That's how you would say it in French, and it says Ouidah, which essentially is the same thing. It's just WHYDAH, and what you'll see in history. All right, words are never really new. They're just kind of a recycling of something. It'll take in history. You'll take like maybe two letters out of a word, and that'll stand for that specifically in that word. But then it'll take other letters from another language to make it easier in a different language to say what they're referring to. So we can see right here it's talking about Judah, or the DAH was taken, and then just to maybe graysize it, which means to make it Greek, or maybe to Frenchize it, make it French or make it English. They'll put different letters up there, for that specific language.
Con. It says Ouidah, Juida, and Judah by the French.
Yep, you keep going.
It says Ayuda by the Portuguese and Fida by the Dutch.
Yep, and what we notice is it's always that last DA, because they got the DA. All right, it says Judah, and you see now the first they was using the DAH part, or the DA at times, you see, but now it's JU, because that's short just for Jew, you see, which when we talk about the Jews, it's talking about you so-called Negroes, Yahweh, Yahweh thanks,
Con.
So,
It says, you want me to continue reading?
oh no, it's all good.
Okay, con.
We can get I'm gonna have you run back. Let's see. You can get Isaiah 14 and verse 2. All right, Slock. Let me read this article.
Con.
So this is back to the article. But yeah, you can hold Isaiah 14 and 2. But it says, it says as well, I'm gonna read from the top. It says, walking the slave route in Ouidah Benin. It says, as well as the center of voodoo religion from the 17th to 19th century. It says Ouidah in southern Benin was a major slave trading post. In a scenario that was repeated across West Africa, captives were brought here to be sold to merchants who then shipped them across the Atlantic to satisfy the demand for slave labor in the plantations and mines of the New World, which is said the Atlantic. It's talking about the transatlantic slave trade. And it says an estimated 15 million Africans, so-called Africans, we understand that was Jake, were sent. 2 million of these left from Ouidah The vast majority of them were forced in chains to walk 4 kilometers from where they were held to the beach as part of as part of our recent West Africa tour. We had the opportunity to walk in their footsteps with a guide to explain their story to us. It was a very interesting and moving experience, which gave us all a much greater understanding of the terrible period in our shared history. All right, I'm gonna skip down. And it says the slave route. It says, as our guide Emmanuel explained, there are 7 steps along the slave route. It says the slave market. It says from the fort, the captives were taken the short distance to the place Cha Cha in the center of the town. It was here under the tree that still occupies the square that the traders came to inspect the captives. They checked their teeth as an indicator of good health and strength. They then held an auction with the slaves, going to the highest bidder. The square was renovated in 1999 using money from the German government. A statue was erected to indicate that this is where the slave market was held. Adjacent to the square is a palace built by Don Francisco de Souza, a Brazilian of humble origins who became the richest and most important slave trader in West Africa. Emmanuel told us that his descendants still own the house. They use it as a holiday home. So that's nothing more than essentially Esau taking pride in essentially enslaving Jake. You know,
Mhm.
so could we go ahead and get that Isaiah 14 and verse 2? And which if I could mention too, I'm gonna get this as well. This is uh, Habakkuk chapter 2, and we'll get let me see. Verse 16, it says, Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. You see, because essentially, Esau would have these different places. I seen a movie one time. He had the, which his article is going to go into, is going to go into the Gate of No Return, which was in, I believe, was in Ouidah Benin as well. But pretty much Esau would set these different places up like museums, or he had like in Charleston and stuff like that, to where he had the slave ports and things of that nature. He had different things set up around the Americas, you see, but now these things are being brought to the forefront, and he don't want to talk about it no more. So yeah, could we get that Isaiah 14 and 2?
Con. If I may say so, just real quick, I know you
Uh-huh.
mentioned that thing that passage of no return. I forgot what there's like a little like tower, something like that, right? Like
Hmm.
something you go under.
Yep.
That kind of reminds me of Titus's what they call it, that monument that he has erected.
Yeah, yeah. It was damn near the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what came to my mind whenever I saw that. But let me get that for you. This is Isaiah 14 and verse 2. It says, "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors."
Right, and it says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. Hey, that's what essentially, Esau did to us. You see, so it's just that he go into captivity. He's going to serve his captivity, and he's going to be destroyed. That's a just reward. Only we going to do it in righteousness. But it's pretty much this is we got the secular history. You see, but now we have the biblical history. To line it up.
Mm-hmm. Done. Hey, may I get a precept for you?
Yeah, you got it.
This is Joel 3, and I'm just going to start at the top. It talks about, well, the subtitle, it says, the nations will be judged. And it says, verse 1, For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead them and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, whom they have scattered among the nations. How did they scatter us? The various slave trade routes, right? You have the transatlantic slave trade, you have the trans-Saharan slave trade, you have even other slave trades that were going on at the time,
Right.
right?
If I
Because
can,
Jake, go ahead, bro, you got it.
now you finish your point.
No, I was just gonna say, those various slave trades around that happened during that time. So that just goes to show you how Jake was scattered, how they were able to scatter us among the nations.
Right, and if I could add too, because you had the transatlantic slave trade, you had the Arab slave trade, and then you
Mhm.
also had which I believe the Arab slave trade that was going to the other nations, correct?
Yeah, that was a trans. I believe that was a trans-Saharan, right? Yeah.
Trans-Saharan slave trade. So but pretty much adding to your point, you had the transatlantic slave trade, but then also you had the slave trades over in the Philippines because you had Issachar being enslaved in the Philippines. That's why a lot of so-called Filipinos they really go back to Issachar. And you also
Mhm.
had Gad going up in there too. So essentially Esau and these nations that they got to get judged.
Right. Right. I'm gonna finish it out.
Hmm.
This is Joel 3, the latter part, verse 2. It says, "Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." Hey, aren't they over there fighting over the land? You know, like you have Palestine, you have so-called the state of Israel, and all these groups just fighting over the land, right? But there's nothing but heathen over there fighting for it. But verse 3 it says, "And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink." Right? So just adding to the point that you know pretty much all Jake was enslaved. But when you read the top in verse 1, it says the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, right? Because this is pretty much what primarily Judah will be going through, right? Like you mentioned in the beginning, how Judah is the head tribe, so of course they're gonna get it the worst as well, right? But everything that's spoken about in the scriptures, what will happen, Judah pretty much embodied that, man.
Hmm.
But you got it.
Could you grab Exodus chapter 21 and verse 5? But this is number 2 in that the 7 steps from the slave route, and it says slave branding. It says once the traders had chosen their slaves, they would take them to an area across the street from the square to get them branded so that everyone would know who they belonged to and to dehumanize them further.
Mm.
Because pretty much, that was essentially Esau's way of saying, "Hey, like this is that pretty much claiming us as property."
Right, right. He had to go through a certain ritual.
Right. Could, yeah.
Oh,
Could we get a
oh,
Exodus?
Salaki. Con,
You
con.
good?
Exodus 21 and 5, right?
Uh huh.
Con, it says, "And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the door post, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever."
That's pretty much in the law, you see. But what Esau did was that was a wicked way of trying to say, "Hey, to call Jake property."
Hmm. Right.
Because
The
he felt
branding.
right.
Con, you got it, bro. Salaki.
Kind of because he felt like in that whole process as if he wasn't going to be judged for the stuff that he did. But the Lord, scripture say the Lord requires that which is past.
Hmm. That's right.
Go- Going back to the article number 3, it says the tree of forgetfulness. It says as they set off on the long walk to the ships, the slaves would be made to walk around a particular tree, which became known as the tree of forgetfulness. The tree is no longer there, but that there is a statue and a plaque to mark the spot. Women had to walk around the tree 7 times and men 9 times. The idea was that they would then forget their identity, their culture, their history, and become a blank canvas for the slave masters. And that was pretty much, Esau using, left hand means. But I'm gonna get a precept real fast. This is Taharyam, Psalms chapter 144 and verse 11. It says, Rid me and deliver me from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. Because Esau, essentially was tapping into, that left hand witchcraft and deception and stuff like that. So that was essentially some type of ritual that Esau was getting into. But I'm gonna get this real fast. I'm gonna go back to this article. It says the darkness rooms. It says the next step on the slave route involved captives being held in a stone cell with no lights whatsoever, because essentially it was like a play on the as humans or as mankind, was essentially made to take in our environment. So that was essentially a way of desensitizing Jake. It says the next step on the slave route involved captives being held in stone cells with no light whatsoever. They were kept in these until the next slave ship was ready to sail, which could be days, weeks, or even months. They were given bread and water once a day. This was part of a plan to rid slaves of their rebellious nature and disorientate them so that they lost all sense of time. Those who had been insubordinate and those who the slaves' masters doubted were strong enough to survive the crossing to the New World were subjected to 3 full months in the darkness rooms, chained and locked in the same position with a metal bit in their mouths. Many committed suicide by the only method available to them, suffocation through biting off their own tongue and forcing it into the back of their throat. It says, I'm going to skip down. I'm going to get a precept. Could you get Revelation chapter 11, verse
Con.
8 and 9?
Want me to read it?
Khan, you get that. I'm going to get this.
Con. This is Revelation 11 and verse 8, and it reads, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified."
Right? And he says, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. The great city is talking about America, Babylon the Great. It's one giant city. It says, which spiritually is called Sodom wa Matazariam, which Sodom is a burning, or it's Sodom. You got Egypt, which is Matazariam, which is goes into double straits. You see, but essentially America takes on both of those places spiritually. It takes on the ways of Sodom. Right? We see the detestable acts of Sodom. Right? We see the in Egypt. Egypt represents bondage. So essentially we're in bondage here in America, Babylon the Great. Jeremiah 50 and 33. The children of Israel and Judah were oppressed together.
Right.
Roughly paraphrasing. And then also, the acts in Egypt. We see obelisks everywhere. We see some of the same architecture, some of the same practices. They were heavy into putting the woman over the man in Egypt. We see all of that stuff in America, Babylon the Great, and it says where also our Lord was crucified. The Lord's ways are not upheld in America, and that was essentially Esau's way of doing away with the scriptures. Essentially
Hmm.
where it says where also our Lord was crucified. So it says, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves, because that whole process, essentially was erasing, Jake's memory, and essentially the connection, Jake that had the connection that Jake had with the Lord, because after that time period, we essentially fell away, you know. But I'm gonna get this too. This is Yaramya, Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. It says, and thou, Baba Kashah, could you get Second Thessalonians chapter 7 or Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 4 or verse 3? It says Jeremiah 17 and 4, it says, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. I'm gonna run that back. It says, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. We was essentially created to serve the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. We was made to fear the Lord. So we discontinue, from the heritage that the Lord gave to us, because essentially we went off. And it says, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. Essentially, Judah coming over here on the slave ships. That America was a place that wasn't familiar. And essentially Judah, had to serve Esau, and essentially all the tribes, we're in servitude, to this devil. Because the scriptures say, essentially, we're subject to payments. And it says, I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. You see, so essentially, we made the Lord angry, because we didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. You see.
Hmm. Con. Want me to read
Yeah,
that? Second Thessalonians.
yeah, you get that.
This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition.
Right. So essentially, the son of perdition is Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and it says, "Except there come a falling away first," which we fell away from from our heritage. You see, the law, statutes, and the commandments of scriptures. You see, but now the Lord is in the process of the elect is returning back and serving the Lord in sincerity and in truth. So we'll go back to if you have nothing, we'll go back to this article.
May I get one real quick?
Yeah, you got it.
Just adding to the point of that whole ritual that Esau has do, you know, like it mentions to try to wipe our memory or try to pretty much prime us to be in captivity. Walking around that tree 7 times or 9 times, however many times, right? But this is Numbers 23 and 23. It says, "Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, what hath the Most High wrought?" Right. So even though Esau did his left hand means, or used his left hand means to try to put spells and enchantments on Jacob, it ultimately ain't going to work. We see in that that it was all the will of the Lord at the end of the day to have us fall away. But now through his will, he's bringing us back. So that enchantment that Esau, talking about putting up and making us forget, lose our memory or whatever, it's like it says, there's no enchantment against Jacob, man. At the end of the day, Jacob is going to surpass anything.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get a quick one for you. This is Tahoyam, Psalm chapter 50, and it's a lot. Psalms 50 and verse 21. It says, "These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee, and set them in order before thine eyes."
Hmm. That's right. Esau has all this time been like they have it on a dollar bill. God bless America, right? Or in God we trust. So all this time, Esau's been using the scriptures, using so-called Christianity as a way to say that uh what they call it, manifest destiny, as a way to proclaim all these things that Esau has been able to hide behind, all these terms, all these ideas to try to justify his means of what he did. But now the tide is turning. Now like it mentioned in Second Thessalonians, now it's being revealed that this man is the devil, and the Most High is the one that's revealing that he's the devil, right? And that's him, pretty much exposing his ass. And at the same time, whenever it says right there Baba Shai, read that latter part back.
Khan says, Psalms 50 and verse 21, it says, "In the latter, thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee, and set them in order before thine eyes."
Right. So right now, Esau's being reproved.
Mm-hmm.
Esau's being reproved right now. He's being an inquisition is being set out against him. He's
Mm-hmm.
being reproved. He's being corrected. Of course, we know Esau can't take correction. He can't take accountability. But hey, it's happening. And at the same time, we have an Israel rise up, man. Us coming back to remembrance. Us coming back to our heritage. Coming back to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, serving Him in truth and sincerity, right? And we understand that that's what they always feared or what happened. Going back to Revelation, the 11th chapter, right? And great fear fell upon them which saw them. So we're seeing that great fear falling upon them now because they're seeing that all the work that they've done or that their forefathers did, which is really them in the previous incarnation, but all the work that they've done to try to keep us away from our power and forget who we were and destroy us as a people is failing. It's falling apart, man.
Right. I'm gonna add to your point because it said
Hmm.
Psalms 50 and 21. So let me go back to it. Psalms 50 and 21, it says, "But I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes." Let me get this real fast. This is Psalms chapter 94 and verse 16. Because Esau Edom is being reproved, like you mentioned, Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. The Lord required that which is past. That word required goes into bakwash, which means to seek, to search out, to demand, to exact. inquisition. You see, so this is Tahoyam, Psalms 94:16. It says, "Who shall rise up for me against the evildoers, or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity?" Hey, essentially, Esau is being exposed, all right, and the Lord is essentially, giving the prophets the knowledge, to go into the different things that Esau is doing incorrectly, so through the Spirit, he's being exposed through this word. I'm gonna get another one. This is Second Thessalonians chapter 2, and we'll get verse 7, and it says, verse 8, it says, and then verse 7, so like it says, "For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way." And essentially the Lord has allowed this man to perpetrate his wickedness, all right, and then essentially the Lord's going to press that button, and he's going to take Esau, Edom out of the way, verse 8, and it says, "And then shall that wicked be revealed," he's been exposed, "whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth." All right, the Lord's mouthpiece is the prophets. He and Esau even is being consumed. Are essentially going to how he's being reproved. He's being corrected through the Spirit, and it's saying, it says, "Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." You see, so essentially, when the Lord returns, he's going to destroy Esau, Edom, his hegemony, everything Esau stand for is going to be put to naught.
Mm-hmm. Con. Yeah, that's the reason why the scriptures say, damn, can't remember where it's at, but pretty much it says, wait until I rise up to the prey,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we gotta wait patiently on the Lord to come and repay back unto Esau what he did unto us. I mean, ultimately we're gonna be doing that in the kingdom, but first, Esau's kingdom had to be taken down, right? All we're doing, like brothers always mention, all we're doing is pretty much heralding the return of our Lord, and we're seeing just by doing that how much power that has. You know what I'm saying? Bringing out truth is just completely, like the scripture said, we're tearing down the stronghold, right? Roughly paraphrasing, and that's essentially what this word does, man. Is completely tearing down the whole fabric of Esau's lives. You know.
Mm-hmm. And we got right here, it says, back to the article, it says, "The cemetery of slaves, when their time in the darkness room was up, the dead and the dying were thrown in the common hole, a deep pit in the ground. Today, the cemetery of slaves is marked by a modern monument where brown represents the slaves, red represents their blood, and black is their chains." So like, continuing on, could you get Deuteronomy 28, and you already got Deuteronomy 28 and 68, right?
Con.
Kanye, could you hold that? I'm gonna read down in this article, but
Uh,
this is number 6 in that article. It says the tree of return. It says the tree of return is still there. If slaves made it this far and still had their wits about them, they would walk around this tree 3 times, believing that if they did so, they later died outside Africa, and they later died outside Africa, their soul will return to their homeland, which SOLE is a play on the sound of the word SOUL, because essentially, the what they wanted to what they wanted us to believe was to essentially, hey, you only came from Africa, that's all you know. That's why a lot of Jakes is like, oh, they African this, they African that. They believe in that deception that essentially that Esau fed to him. So when it says their soul, SOLE, like the foot would return to their homeland, that's essentially Esau's lie. And again, it's a play on the word of SOUL, because essentially they try to perpetrate that that's where we came from. Actually, let's get that preset real fast,
mm-hmm.
proving that we don't come from Africa. That was a when they announce fighters, when they say, this guy is fighting by way of, like Indiana. He's from Hawaii, but he's fighting by way of Indiana. That means that you were passing through. You're not actually from there. You're from where you're from. We're from Jerusalem. Yashar Allah. This is
Mm-hmm.
Galatians chapter 4, and uh what's the precept that talks about Jerusalem? We all came from Jerusalem.
Oh, Galatians 4:26.
Okay, the Galatians 4 and verse 26, it says, "But Jerusalem, which is above, excuse me, but Jerusalem, Yarashalam, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all." So we derive from Jerusalem, from Yasha Allah. That's That's where we came from. We didn't come from Africa. You know, it was just a that was just a again by that's by way of, you know, we were just passing through when we essentially from 70 A.D. we fled into the interiors of Africa. You know, from the essentially the persecution or the siege of Jerusalem in 70 A.D. You know, Jake fled into the interiors of Africa with a lot of Jakes going into the Western Africa. That's why we talking about Ouidah, you know, because that was Western Africa. While again, Jake did go into the interiors of Africa, you see, but it was large settlements in the western side.
Mm-hmm. Con.
But continuing on, um, going back to that article, it says the gate of no return. It says the slaves reached the breach. Excuse me, when the slaves reached the beach at Ouidah, they were put in small boats and rowed out to the slave ships. Today, there is a symbolic monument to mark where this happened. The slaves knew they would never come back to Africa. Hence, the monument is known as the Gate of No Return. In the days of the slave trade, 1,000 slaves would be packed onto each ship. They would be shackled at the neck, wrists, and ankles, and laid down. The women would be laid face up, and the men face down, so that the slave masters and their staff could rape whoever they wanted to. By the time they arrived at their destination, at least half of them would be dead. It says the gate of no return, and it gives a picture, you know, which bros and bros could just search it up and then on Google, and it'll have a picture. But essentially, that was that was just a small snippet. I wouldn't even say 1% of what Esau has done to us as a people. Which
Mm-hmm.
this devil is going to essentially reap what he sow. Could you get Psalms chapter 28 verse 3 to 4? I'm gonna get this. This is
Con.
Galatians chapter 6 and verse 7, and it says, "Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." You see, so the things that you perpetrate throughout the earth, your conduct, your conversation, how you carry yourself, all right, what you do, you're gonna reap. You're gonna reap of whatever that is. If it was good works, you're gonna receive a good reward. If it was evil, you see, you can get a evil reward. The Lord is just. You see, so you
Mm-hmm.
get it how you want. So Esau has done this, to us. You see, so he can get his just reward. That's where you get the word just desserts from. You know, which I'm reading off the comment board as well. This is Sean Martha, Exodus chapter 11 and verse 7, real fast. It says, "But against any of the children of Yasha shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, the game may know how that the Lord doeth put a difference between Egyptians and Yasha. You see, so essentially going into that, we look nothing like, Ham. Ham nasty as shit. We got law, statutes, and commandments. Essentially, we carry ourselves in a different fashion, a different facet than the rest of these heathen. So both physically and spiritually, we're way different than Hamites.
Mm-hmm.
It says it right there. Because if I
Right.
could mention too, when they spoke about Africa, it wasn't called Africa before. It was known as the land of Ham. Aratazah Shah Ham. That's where you get Ham. Chemistry. The CHEM. That comes from Ham. That's how you say it in Hebrew. But essentially, things of that nature. Things pursuing to Africa. All right, that's Ham's land. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, can we get that?
Con. This is Psalms 28 and verse 3. It reads, "Draw me not away from Slakia. Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts."
Right. Well, the scriptures say that they mouth is smoother than oil, but wars in their heart, roughly paraphrasing. Because Esau he just tell you the stuff that he wants you to hear to, what I'm saying, get you to do what's going to be beneficial for him. And they say mischief is in their heart. Well, really, what they really want to do is they want to show that sword. That's what they was blessed with. They want to use that sword. Because like even with Christopher Columbus, Cristobal Colon, he said he couldn't put his sword down. So and then at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I believe I read something that said that he would talk. to Jake in the Americas, and they was super peaceable, but like he just had a spirit on him to where he just wanted to, kill, you know.
Mm-hmm. Con. May I get something for you real quick?
Con.
Just to add to that point. This is Psalm 62 and verse 4. It says, "They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly." So just adding to that point, man, Esau's whole MO is just really to take down Jake, to have him at the bottom, keep him as that footstool, you know. So that's all Esau's MO. Any planning, anything that he seems to be a benefit or he pushes out there. The scriptures even say, if you do with any good, he do with it unwillingly. So
Hmm.
everything that Esau does is always to oppress, and to oppress who? Mainly Jake, right? Now, of course, they got Esau's got his own people in the same old pot as Jake, but that just shows you what the scriptures say. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? You know, but just going back to the point, it says they only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly, right? So even though they bless with their mouth, even though they might uh, 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 like whenever Jake was going through the whole, what they call it? I guess the what do they call it? Whenever Jake was out there protesting with the Black Panthers and all that. What's that time period? The Revolution
Civil
or
rights.
Revolutionary? The Civil
Civil
Rights,
rights.
yeah, the Civil Rights time period, right? That whole time period, it was uh it was pretty much Esau trying to, um I guess you could say there was a lot of Edomites at the time trying to, take the side of Jake and shit. But really,
Right.
they were just infiltrating.
Right. Kind
You
is
gonna make a
like,
point, Ark?
yeah, because I don't know the bitch name, but it was an Edomite, and she was like, she said about a CIA, and she pretty much, had it to where during that time, because at first, Jake had to have Jake was still going off, but Jake still had family back then. It was like Jake still held to some type of morals, you see. But then they had bought some Edomite female in, and she essentially was like essentially turning Jake, against excuse me, the Jake woman, making it to where the Jake woman wanted to essentially stand up for herself, so to speak. But really it was just a division of the family. You know.
Right.
I'm
Con.
gonna get that real fast. This is Nahum Nahum chapter 3 and verse 4. It says, "Because of the multitude of the whoredoms, the well favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations to her whoredoms and families to her witchcrafts." You see, that was nothing more than witchcraft and deception. To essentially infiltrate and divide up the household. Because essentially by doing so, all right, we see where we're at now. To where Jake don't have no type of leadership. Really, we just need the kingdom. That's what Jake need is the kingdom.
Right. Con. And one more point I wanted to make, but just add to that Psalm 62 and also that um Psalms 28. Just it reminds me of whenever Jake wasn't during that whole civil rights type, or even after slavery, like right after slavery, they were calling Jake nigger, spick, all these words, right? All these powers and bywords. But then whenever they try to free us and give us a actual identity, they didn't give you your actual identity. They gave you black, or what they call us back then, colored people, you know,
Hmm.
Mexicans, Hispanics, Native Americans, all these terms. But that's them, uh, uh, um, like I said, blessing with their mouth, but inwardly they're cursing. Like they're not really giving you the whole truth. They're making it seem like they're showing favor to you and helping you out, but really they ain't for you, Jake.
Right. Because even in saying like Hispanic is just property of Spain. Or if you go into, like you're saying American, African American, you're just saying two things that were not really. Because at first Jake was being called, so-called Negro. You see, but get by
Mhm.
giving Jake African American, that's just nothing more than a proverb in the Bible. Which when you go into, I'm actually get that because it goes into, that's them blessing with their mouth, but inwardly they're essentially carrying out their plans and cursing. Roughly paraphrase. Let me get this real fast.
Mhm.
This is Deuteronomy. chapter 28 and verse 37, it says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. I want to get that word for it's the word for byword, and it says, let me see, it is Shah Nayana, Shanayana. So it's H8148, and it says sharp word, sharp cutting word, a taunt, a guide, something pointed. So essentially that's them. That's a way of them essentially, speaking peace. You see, because Jake felt like in those times, oh, we're not being called Negro no more, so it's African American. You see, but really that's just a it's a taunting word, but it's mockery, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Con.
But yeah,
Want me to continue reading that Psalm 28?
yeah, to verse 4.
Con. This is Psalm 28 and verse 4. It says, give them according to their deeds and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the work of their hands. Render to them their desert.
All right, and that's what the Lord is doing, pursuant to Psalms 50 verse 21, Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. The Lord required that which is past. All right, Psalms 50 and 21. That's the Lord reproving them. You see, because essentially, uh, uh, we're reading off this man's crimes. You see, but then after the crimes are read off, from this devil being exposed, then all right, then he gonna get what he deserved. He's gonna be destroyed. He's gonna go. He's gonna do his slavery. That's true just desserts. That's true punishment. The Lord is just, and Esau is going to receive of a just reward.
I got a quick precept. This is Isaiah 47, and I'm gonna start at 6. It says, and I was wroth with my people, I have polluted my inheritance, and given them into thine hand. Thou dost thou didst show them no mercy upon the Shalaki, thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke, and thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Hey, and that's the same sentiment that Esau's in right now. He feels like he's never gonna go down. He feels like nothing's ever gonna happen. He's never gonna pay for all the shit that he done, right? And that he continues to do. Like right now, what's the biggest thing coming out right now? The whole thing with him and these sex trafficking of these kids, man. And it continues to go on. Slavery has never changed. It's just evolved, man. And now we're coming to a point where, like we've been mentioning throughout this whole video, where things is getting exposed, and he's being rebuked, right? And that punishment is coming. He didn't consider the latter end of it. He didn't consider that he was going to have to pay the due. That bill is due, man. You don't went to the store. You know got everything in the goddamn store pretty much. And now you expect not to get charged?
That's like Esau's a true hypocrite. Because even in like we look at the entertainment industry, and you look at like clubs and bars and stuff like that. He got bouncers, so those that try to slide off on their tab, the bouncers enforce that rule. This is in Esau's world, you see. So he feels as if he not gonna be charged. Like that's preposterous. Like
Right.
he got it fucked up.
Yeah, there ain't no maritime law with this, Esau. You can't wiggle your way out of this, you know. But you got it, bro.
That's pretty much all I had. You had something else?
Uh, yeah, Con. I had this article. I
Nah, you
looked
good.
up. I looked up this article. I'm just going to read a little bit into this. Going into Ouidah, or that location over there in Africa. It says Ouidah, also known as Ouidah, is a commercial center in the modern African nation of Benin. Uh, that was one of the most attractive slave trading ports in all of Africa. Europeans called the Bight of Benin, where
Mm-hmm.
Ouidah is located, in the surrounding region, the Slave Coast, because of its importance in supplying American markets with African laborers, which we're not African, we're Israelites. But it says, Historians estimate that over the course of 2 centuries, Ouidah alone exported more than 1 million Africans before closing its trade in the 1860s. Only one other port in Africa, Luanda in Central Africa, transported the greater volumes of slaves. Now, I'm going to read one more paragraph, but it says the earliest European settlement of Ouidah began near an existing African town there in the late 1600s, but did not become well established until 1704, when French traders built a fortified trading post. Over time, the traders representing several different European nations constructed their own forts to tap into the town's growing market. In 1727, the kingdom of Dahomey conquered Ouidah and its African political leadership. This process eventually helped to increase the size of Ouidah and in turn its commercial importance. And really, I just brought that point out because that place was called Ouidah, I believe, even before the Europeans went there.
Because it was a Jake kingdom there. It was the kingdom of Ouidah, and pretty much if I'm not mistaken, when you go into Benin, that's a corruption of if you look up the etymology, it'll go into Bani for sons in Arabic, but we understand that in Hebrew, sons would be Banyam. So they just took off
Right.
the ma, had the Banya, and essentially they kept the B in the N, changed the A to a E, and then the N stayed the same. The ya at the end, they pretty much just put that into a I. Sometimes in transliteration, the I will be a ya, and they just added an N, for again the corruption of Hebrew. So it turned into Benin, which it really should be like I said, if I'm not mistaken, Banyam, which is
Mm,
sons, because you had Judah. That was Judah over there. That's hence the name Ouidah. Ouidah will go back to Yahwadah. It's just broken Hebrew.
God. Yeah, but that just shows you how Esau works, man. He be changing the names and changing things just slightly, but throwing people way off whenever it comes down to the truth of the matter. Like this is just too obvious to just pass by. You know, Jake needs to like realize that hey, we are the people, man. We are the tribes of Israel, man. This is solid proof.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much it. That's all I had.
Conway, hey, Adawar Tazaza Banaya Pablo, Twitter was a beautiful edification through the spirit. While Adawar Tazah Adam Yashi Awam Tawabe, Lord's will. You all have a good day. While we can go ahead and close it out by saying, Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rocha Kodash. A double honor to those in the apostles of great millstone that torch the truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing the truth with all righteousness and sincere. Shalom, shalom. Hayawam Tawab La Atam, A Shalom.
Shalom.